Divine Truth Assistance Group. Group assistance sessions putting principles of divine truth into action. This recording is from the Developing My Will to Love group and is part of the Education and Love series. In the How I Feel About Change Q&A presentation, Jesus answers questions from the audience about the material covered in the previous presentation, How I Feel About Change. Recorded on the 5th of March 2016 in Noosaville, Queensland, Australia.
Okay. Well, the subject of this particular discussion is how I feel about change, question and answer. Now, you've got a choice. I can ask you questions or you can ask me questions. Which one would you like? Okay, let me ask you a question. What do you think, if you're going to accept God's view of love and be educated by God in love, what do you think is going to have to change?
What was the question?
I'm not going to repeat it. Alex, thank you.
Your desire for love.
Yep, but can we say what else? Like, there's a lot of things, isn't there? Can I just put it in one word? Everything. That's all. You know, I love that because it means that even your attitudes will change, your beliefs will change, the way you think will change, the way you feel will change, the interactions with other people will change, the way you live your life will change, the choices you make will change, and your future will change, obviously through all of these different choices you're making. Just everything will change, right? Now, for most people, you know, that's pretty frightening. Because what happens in this world today is we get this level of comfort that grows within us. Once we feel we've got our partner and we feel we've got our life that we plan for ourselves and we feel that we've got our financial situation a bit nice and secure and we feel that we've got, you know, the car we want and the 2 children that we wanted and the house with a picket fence or whatever it is that we aimed for. And once we feel like we've got the travel we wanted and all these different things, we sort of go like, oh, my life's starting to feel quite nice now for the most part. And so we start resisting any further changes. We forget, actually, don't we, that we've had to change in order to accept all of those other things. But now that we've gotten to what we believe is our ideal, so this is an issue, is the way we see what our ideal actually is. Once we believe we've reached or closely approximated our ideal, we then believe that we should now stop changing. We develop a level of comfort in where we currently are at that point, and then we choose to no longer make further changes. That's what we choose to do, unfortunately. Now, God wants you to understand that actually your change will be infinite and also potentially universal in its effects. And God wants you to change beyond your wildest imagination or your wildest dreams. God wants you to be able to continue changing even beyond all that. And this is the problem with resisting change, is that we get to a point where we sort of have a build-up where we allow change, and then it's not like this. And you know what starts to happening then? Yeah, and you know why that downhill process occurs? It's because we've now allowed fear for such a long time to dominate our lack of change that the fear builds up and now causes its own negative effects. And so our life starts to degrade. So this is why many of you are nostalgic. You know that feeling? A longing for the past? Because there was a period in your life where you thought you had the ideal, and now you long back for that ideal because of it, things have gotten worse since. Not understanding that the reason why things have gotten worse since is because you decided to try to maintain that ideal rather than continuing further change. Yeah. Yeah. So, Alex, no? Let's go to Joanne, up the back, and Natalie. You need to stand up for that's it.
Okay. Given that our comfortable life is probably mostly, if not all, addictions, do we need to make those changes and then we can proceed? Or can we just say, oh, well, if I just start to proceed, I will allow these changes to happen?
Well, it's like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg, isn't it, is really the question you're asking.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, and remember we mentioned that there were four particular things in the previous discussion that I gave you that we were going to need to develop if constant change was going to be maintained. Can you remember those four things?
Yes. Truth.
Truth, yeah.
Faith.
Faith, yeah.
Someone said action.
Action, yeah. And feeling some emotion, aren't we?
Yes.
Now, can I give you maybe an illustration of that from your own childhood?
Yes.
Right. When you were really little, like probably between 6 to 12 months of age, most of you can't remember that time because our brain is yet to really formulate memories of those particular experiences, but your family will tell you this anyway, even if you don't believe what I'm saying to you. In between that time, you look around yourself and within yourself a longing or a desire grows to get more mobile than crawling. Doesn't it?
Yes.
You see that in all children. They want to be more mobile than just crawling around on the ground.
Yeah.
Because standing up and being able to run and jump and do all these other things looks a lot more interesting, doesn't it? You notice that? Like, imagine if you were still crawling on the ground.
Yeah.
Besides getting dirty hands as well as dirty feet, obviously you're not upright. You're not being out. You haven't got freedom of mobility. It's a very much a limited way of moving yourself. You can't run, so therefore you can't move more quickly. You're quite limited in your speed of movement as well as your agility. There's quite a lot of limitations, including the limitation that you can't actually stand upright, which means you can't balance and you can't reach for higher things and so forth. There's a whole set of limitations. Now, the child doesn't think about any of that, does it? It just looks at the environment around it and goes, everybody's standing up but me. Right? And it feels drawn through this desire to stand, to become more mobile.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so and you can sit down if you like, because I don't think I think you guys have got a shot. So here we are. We're more upwardly mobile. We want to be more upwardly mobile, and so the child does that very first thing, of wobble, dragging itself up by, usually something a bit soft, but not always, and then getting into an upright position, right, and then sometimes falling over flat on its face. Now, what does it do then? It cries its lungs out because it hurt itself, right? Cries its lungs out for 5 minutes, usually. Usually it's not very long, unless it's really badly hurt itself. It's not very long. But it's pretty intense when it's doing it, isn't it? It's like screaming instead of crying its lungs out, needs a bit of a nurse usually, whatever. Goes through the process of allowing itself to feel what it felt like getting injured. And then 5 minutes later, it's like it never happened. Because what does it do? It stands up again. Wobble, 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 right? But this time a bit more stability generally, right? And then it starts to take a step, falls flat on its face. What happens then? Cries and cries and cries its eyes out again, right? For 5 minutes or 10 minutes or how long it takes to recover from it. And then what does it do? Silly thing. It gets up again, right? And it keeps doing that, and it usually will do that over a period of a few days, and within a few days it's walking. usually a week or so after that process, walking. Interesting, that process, isn't it? In terms of what we can learn from that process. So what is the process if we analyse that process? The child has a desire and faith that it can eventually stand just like the adults do. That's what it has. It believes it. It believes it even before it does it. And the reason why it believes it is because everybody else is doing it, which is proof that the belief has validity. It has value. Does that make sense? If everyone was still crawling around on their hands and knees, it would take a especially unique child to stand up under those circumstances. But because everybody around it is standing up, it obviously knows for certain that it can. So it does try to attempt it, even though it's never attempted it before. I'll just run this off because I just want to write down the summary of the process. The first part of the process is therefore desire, and the other part of that process of having desire is faith that it can be achieved. You follow? Now, the faith isn't based on some whimsical imagination. It's based on the fact that other people are doing it right in front of it. So, of course, it's got some faith that it can be done. It has a confidence it can be done. It has so much confidence that it feels that it can do it itself. The child can do it itself. Right? Now, these are all feelings without any thought going on, really, by the child, isn't it? They're all just feelings. Just that it feels that it can do it, so it gets up and tries it. Makes an effort. So what does it do? It takes some action. Right? Okay, takes the action, falls flat on its face. What does it do then? Expresses its emotion completely. Now, the reason why it can get up and take another action is because it releases the emotion and it's allowed to release the emotion. Almost every parent enjoys the child getting up to walk. Right? It's a feeling of progress on the part of the child. In fact, nowadays it's like video movies of the whole event. Right? That's how important it is because all of us as parents think this is a wonderful moment in the child's life when it's learning to walk. So there's very little negative emotional projection at the child and therefore no impediment towards the child learning to walk. So takes an action, falls flat on its face, and the parent feels sorry for the child, so it's allowed to feel its emotion. It's allowed to have a good cry about the fact that it just hurt itself, just like I nearly did, and it's allowed to process through that emotionally. It's allowed to, so it does. So it has a big cry, big emotional release. You imagine if it didn't have the emotional release for a moment. It'd be from then on carrying the concept that it's going to get hurt walking, and then it's probably not going to try to walk. And then its desire would have to be greater than that, greater than the fear, before it would try again. Does that make sense? But here we are, so it feels its emotion, falls flat on its face, cries its eyes out, and because it's cried its eyes out, the memory of the pain of the event has gone. Isn't that interesting? And because the memory of the pain of the event is gone, it's like the child never had the experience. So it gets up again and has another go. And it's allowed to. The parents let it make mistake after mistake after mistake, don't they? In order to get to learn to walk. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He's allowed to get it wrong. He's even allowed to have a few dangerous moments till he gets it right. Right? He's even allowed to have that. He's allowed to go through some things that terrify mum and dad even sometimes in order to learn to walk. So he's allowed to go through the emotional and physical experience of growth. Agreed? Yeah? Is there any questions about that? If we go to Ivana, maybe, over here.
Just with you talking before about the child learning to walk and having faith because people around, like everyone else is walking. Do you mean like if, just say, people didn't walk and they were crawling, that the child would be less likely to actually try to get up and walk?
For many millennia, in fact, people did that. Like 120,000 years ago. Yep, took a while before there were some brave enough souls to change outside of the norm. Yeah. Okay, if we go to Jen and then up to back.
So does that mean that if the feedback in that whole process from external forces or environment was negative or ridiculing, then the little child would have no choice but to store unresolved or an inability to resolve the emotion, and then
Jen,
would be...
you ask questions that you know the answer to. Yes, of course that's true, but you know the answer to that. You know that's true.
Did I? All right.
Yeah, so I think it's self-evident, isn't it?
Well, it wasn't. I
think it is. Often you ask questions just because you want to resolve within yourself whether your understanding is correct, rather than just asking if your understanding is correct. You follow me? It's just an emotional addiction you have.
To
ask a question restating what I've already stated.
Okay.
Which you're just doing now.
Thank you.
Yep. Natalie. Oh, sorry, up the back. Yep.
Marion.
Yep, Marion.
Matilda has experienced a lot of fear from me, and her crawling sent...
Matilda being your child.
Yes,
Yep.
who's now 16 months.
Yep.
And she sent shudders of fear through me when she started crawling, which
Yep.
was crazy. And
Well, not crazy,
well,
but yep.
crazy.
Don't judge it, it's not.
She's now 16 months and only just starting to walk
Yes.
because of my levels of fear.
Correct.
So-
Delayed development in the child is the direct result of the projections coming from the parent.
And it's a perfect example to develop the will to love and change.
Correct.
Except it's still really hard to do.
But often we often don't see it like that. So we often would take them to a doctor and say, oh, the delayed development, I don't know what's going on here. It's not me. It's got nothing to do with me. It's got to be something wrong with the child, right? Got to be something wrong with them, not considering that it's actually our emotion. See, you imagine if we suppress their desire to walk by projecting fear, if we suppress their desire to take action by even getting a bit upset about the actions they take, and if we suppress their emotion after they've taken the actions, you can see that all of those particular things are going to have a detrimental effect on the child's welfare and development when it comes to trying new things. Now, why have I raised this issue? Because I don't want to get hung up in the child issue. Why have I raised it? Aren't we all children? Yes. And we're all children learning to change. And how are we going to change? Exactly the same way that we did in the past. And somehow we've given it all up. But it's exactly the same way as we did when we were a little child. We need to have a desire. We need to have faith that we can do it. And the desire, of course, would need to be in harmony with love, right? And we'd have faith that we can do it. We need to take some action, and then we have to be prepared to feel whatever emotion happens as a result of any mistake we might make in the whole process. Right. But you know what I see? I see majority of you are too scared to have a desire. You don't have any faith at all in God in particular in a way you've made. You refuse to take action. And when you have an emotion, you don't even want to have that either. And the way you see mistakes is like it's the end of the world. Right? Ben, if we can. If you just hand the mic across to Ben.
When you have the incestuous parent-child thing, does that delay development well into adulthood.
It has a terrible effect on a lot of areas of your life. And we will talk about some of them later, but things like even personal responsibility. There's a refusal to take personal responsibility. Many of you who have severe spirit influence in your life are in this position where you badly want the spirit influence in your life because it helps take away some responsibility from yourself to take actions for yourself. At this stage, most of you have little awareness of how much your will is being impacted upon by these past experiences. Yeah. You can bring the mic back, as you don't have to get rid of it before you're finished.
I was just going to say that it feels very completely controlled by that well into my adulthood.
By your mother.
Yeah. Really.
Yeah. And even there, as regards to that, there's then a need to be controlled.
Yeah.
As well, so
you ask for the control.
Yeah, you want the control because it helps you absolve yourself of responsibility of choices and decisions.
Yeah, it's very damaging.
Yeah, it has a negative effect on a lot of things in our life. This is why, a lot of these things come out a lot in our adulthood. We start seeing the results of them in our adulthood, but the reality is they are all traced back and easily traceable, in fact, back.
Yeah, I've just been mapping it out. It's just clear as day, really.
And it's very good you've been doing that.
Yeah.
And as you know, you've also had a lot of spirit influence which has badly affected your life, and you've just been trying to break free of that the last few years, haven't you? And
it's been terrible.
Yeah. And that's a direct result also of this childhood predisposition.
I got all that. Yeah. I got there.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? Yeah, Natalie, thanks.
Just while you're on the topic of spirit influence and change, if I heard the channeling that you did with Anthony and how you said that people on earth need to take more responsibility for the addictions that we have with spirits. So then, could you give me an example of these 4 things that you're talking about and how to change that?
Yeah, sure. So let's draw a little diagram. It's always helpful. So here's Natalie. I don't know if that's a correct reflection of her true passage, but anyway, here's some spirits around her. You're surrounded by both male and female spirits, yes?
Yeah.
You have the advantage sometimes of seeing them, so that helps you. But it doesn't help you much with the attraction, does it?
No, and I'm scared to look too.
Yeah, you're afraid to see who's actually around you at different times. Okay, so if we look at your childhood, what happened with Daddy?
That's not a simple answer.
It never is, but can you give us a brief summary?
My mum and dad separated when I was young.
How young?
3.
3. So you grew up basically without your father?
Yep. And my dad was the kind of man that sought out prostitutes most of his life.
Yep.
Had lots of extramarital affairs.
Yep.
And I came to learn that he had sexually abused me when I was young as well.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So pretty intense with Daddy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what are you looking for from Daddy?
I just wanted him to love me.
Yeah, you would desperately want Dad's love, if I put it in quotations, because your definition of love is way different than God's in this regard. Yeah. What do you see love to be?
Just being here today, I don't know anymore.
That's good. That's a good start.
I actually think that's a good thing.
That's a good start, yeah. But at the moment, up until now, you've sort of seen love to be somebody meeting your addictions.
Yeah.
That's love.
Yeah.
So love is a man, in this case, if we're looking at it from the male point of view, meeting my addictions. So how does that feel, Scott? Are you doing very well there?
Yeah, sometimes, some days harder than others.
Yeah, because there's a lot of demands coming at you, right? Yeah, any man in your life, Nat's going to have huge demands coming at them to meet your addictions and meet your desire for control, do what you want them to do. And in fact, the way you see it at the moment is if a man doesn't do what you want him to do, he doesn't love you. It's just that simple. He just doesn't love you. The reality is he could love you and not meet any addiction. In fact, he would love you more if he didn't meet any addiction. But to you, that would drive you absolutely bonkers. right, with rage, actually. You get very angry with him, you'd want to get rid of him quick, smart, right? So this is just one way. So this is your definition of love, man meeting my addictions. Okay, so the question is...
Do we just create that addiction just to avoid some sort of pain?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, of course you did.
Okay.
Yep. You know, Dad left when he was 3. He was off seeing prostitutes. You got an idea that the way to get approval of a man is to be a prostitute, even through the process, right? So, you know, you've even felt that at times. And you love to have control over a man so that he's not wayward, right? He doesn't... You've got total control. He's not gonna leave you then, right? That's what you think. Unfortunately... The opposite occurs because whenever you try to grasp control of a person, their will is being impacted. After a while, if they have any self-love at all, they will leave you. Right? So you're actually creating the very thing that you're afraid of happening.
So how do I change that?
So how do you change that? Well, firstly, you have to have a desire to change that. You can see? It has to, and at this stage, I haven't seen a desire in you to change that.
Okay.
Right, so that's where you need to begin. I see you doing to Scott exactly what I've seen you do in other situations. So you don't have a strong desire to change that.
Can I ask, why would I not have a desire to change that? Because I hear you say to me what I'm doing.
Well, you believe that is love. You believe that's love. And you're not willing to accept, this is a choice you're making, you're not willing to accept God's viewpoint of love, isn't that?
Okay.
You want your viewpoint of love. Your viewpoint of love, you think that's the viewpoint of love. How dare anybody tell me any different? You follow me?
Yeah.
So this is something that you need to choose to change. And you can choose to change it. Do you follow me?
Yeah.
Like every bit of change, as you learnt from your child, you know, with the illustration of walking, every bit of change begins with a desire to do so.
So then how does my definition of love then apply to these spirits that I attract and then influence me?
Well, if you want that from a man you can see, what do you think you want from a man you can't see? The same thing. Do you understand? Just because you can see them and not see them, it doesn't make any difference to how you feel. You want that from a man you can't see. So you want men to be around you whom you can have some power and control over. But unfortunately, they're not going to give you power and control without getting something in return. That's what codependence is all about. So, Scott, what do you want in return for feeding your girl's addiction?
I suppose the feeling of being needed, I suppose.
Yes, so there's a feeling of being needed. Yeah, there's something else that also you have going on. Be honest with yourself.
I don't know. I suppose that's a sense of value for me, I suppose.
Yes, so it creates a sense of that she wants you in her life, so wanted, the sense of value. But you also get some sex when you're a good boy, don't you? You notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do, yeah. So that's quite nice, right? So there's a few things that you need there, right? This is what these are going to want as well. Same thing.
Does that mean that I'm unwilling to change as well, or
it does?
If I decide to change, would that, that would definitely put forward sparks and
Yeah, there'll be conflict in your relationship for a period of time because Nat doesn't want to change. So if you decided to change on this regard, for example, if you decided to not have sex with her unless it's given to you from her desire rather than from her need to control you, right? That would challenge Nat to a large degree. She'd fear she's losing control of you then. And then what is she going to do? Well, that will depend on her choice and decision at that point. It depends on her desire. If her desire is, no, I want to work through this so that I can love you better, then she'll want to deal with that. But if her desire is, no, I want my addictions met and that's it, then she'll get very upset and then you'll have disagreements, right? Friction. And for yourself, friction doesn't feel good, particularly with a woman, because you get your value from the woman. Does that make sense? So when she's in a state of friction with you, then you no longer feel like you have as much value, so that then starts triggering you as well. But if you think about it, this process needs to occur if you're going to get God's view of love and actually have a better relationship, rather than one that's based on codependent manipulation of emotion, right? But what I'm pointing out, the original question Nat asked, is that what kind of spirits are around me? And the answer is the same kind of spirits, the same kind of people on earth. Because you have the same kind of addiction with them as you do with the spirits. Does that make sense?
Okay, so when you can feel your addictions with people and you start to notice these things, that ultimately is exactly what's happening with the people you can't see or choosing not to see.
Yeah, the men in spirit want you to they want to feel needed from you and valued by you, and they're willing to give you a number of things in order to do that.
And the women,
one of those things is sexual validation, sexual approval. One of those things is meeting some of your addictions for you. So they actually structure help for you so that you get some addictions met.
and women do the same.
Well, women are not the same emotion. Of course, it's a different set of emotions with the women, isn't it? For yourself, different set of emotions with the women.
Yeah, they feel really angry and manipulative.
Yeah, yeah. So who does that remind you of?
My mother.
Yeah, of course. So they are more emotionally manipulative, right? And what have you learnt to do with them?
Negotiate.
Exactly. You please them a bit. In other words, they bribe you with a bit of threat. You go, okay, I'm getting threatened now. What I need to do is give them a bit of what they want, and then they'll back off. So you give them a bit of what they want, and they back off. Right? But how much of this life is you in the end?
And it doesn't feel like that.
No, that's right. It's not going to. See, when you're fully engaged with your own will, you don't do things like this for any reason. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
This is like giving your will away to spirits.
You give your will away, but you also expect the other person who's with you to give their will away.
Okay.
Yeah. And so you're in a codependent barter with regard to your will. You want Scott to do certain things for you, and as long as he does those things for you, you'll do certain things for him.
And in relation to our children,
Yep.
I feel like at times, if I don't do what spirits want, they
Threaten your children?
Yeah, and they push them over, especially the little boy.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
But it's the same thing, isn't it? You just want them to feel safe because you haven't processed through the emotions of safety. So you want the spirits to help you make them feel safe. So you'll do anything for those spirits to help your children be safe.
So it always comes back to myself as far as if I want the kids to stop having that happen to them, I have to...
Everything always comes back to yourself.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah, it's very important, you see, to understand the dynamics of what are actually happening. Because if you understand the dynamics of what's happening, you can change it if you desire to do so. And you have some faith that it can happen, and you're willing to take some action, and you're willing to feel some emotion. This is the challenge in a relationship. In a relationship, the challenge is many relationships begin through codependent bartering addictions. The challenge to improve the relationship is to actually move beyond the codependent bartering system and actually bring your relationship into harmony with love. But that's quite difficult when each of you are in agreement with each other about how the addictions should function. Right? And what I'm suggesting is both of you in a relationship, well, it only requires one in the relationship for change to occur, but it's much better in terms of your happiness and welfare that both develop a desire for it to change, both have some faith that it can, both take some action for themselves individually primarily, and both allow themselves to experience the emotional reason why they're choosing this particular addiction rather than dealing with the problem.
Thank you.
Yep. Sandra down the front, and then across to Joshua over the side. So if you keep your hand up, Josh, so that Jane can see you. Thanks. Sandra.
If someone says that they have a desire to feel their fear, but underneath that, the motivation to want to feel their fear is to avoid something bad happening to them, does that mean it's a facade?
Of course, you're basically saying that if someone wants to feel their fear and it's in order to avoid another fear, then they're not really feeling their fear, are they?
So, like, if I don't want to be tortured and I feel like something bad is going to happen like that, if I don't feel my fear, like, how would I resolve that so that I can actually release that fearful emotion?
So have you ever been personally tortured?
No, but my grandmother was tortured, and I've been being threatened by spirits a lot.
I know.
And
so what's happened here is you got your grandma, who's now in the spirit world, is she?
yeah.
Yep. And your grandma, who's been actually tortured herself. Now that emotion got passed down to, obviously, which grandma? Was it father or mother?
Father.
Father side, yep. So dad's side got that projection. So dad obviously now feels he's got to keep women safe, he's got to make women feel safe, he's got to prevent them from being harmed and so forth. And then, of course, he's going to project that at you, his daughter. Yep. So your dad's pretty hooked into your life as a result, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so here we got grandma. Now grandma passes and she's got a granddaughter. What does she do? She goes, I'm really afraid for my granddaughter. So now grandma's in spirit. So I'll draw spirit in blue. So grandma's now in spirit. And she's now telling you all the things that could possibly happen to you. Right? Which in today's age and where you live, highly unlikely they'll happen to you, right?
What the spirits have told me is that there is like an organ transplant mafia that kidnaps people and then, harvests them, and it happens a lot in Mexico. And also, I have been speaking up about organ donation and the procedures that happen.
Can I just stop you though? Where do you live?
In the U.S.
Right. So you don't live in Mexico?
No.
No.
But in the U.S., they harvest organs from live people, and they don't give them any anesthesia.
But can you see now that what you're doing is you're imposing your grandma's fear upon your life? And you're making the choice to do it. In fact, you're, in this conversation, completely justifying it to me. You're making the choice to accept grandma's opinion. Why is the real question. Why do you want to keep accepting grandma's opinion?
I have a feeling that it will actually happen to me, and if I don't do
No, your grandma has a feeling it will happen to you.
She does?
Yeah, of course she does. Right? She believes it's going to happen to you. She believes it's going to happen to any woman, right? But she believes it's going to happen to you. She wants to prevent that from happening to you. So that's why she's surrounding you all the time. The question I'm asking you is, why are you accepting grandma's opinion?
Because I don't want to be tortured.
No, it's not for that reason. There's something with you and your grandma that you keep allowing her opinion into your mind when it's actually out of harmony with love. It's got nothing to do with actually being tortured. It's like I've been tortured myself, right? First century, I was tortured quite a lot, actually. There was a few occasions in my life where I was tortured in the first century. I was 21 at one point in time. The torture of myself began at 8 years of age when I was in that school I was telling you about, and I had some more when I was 15, and then I got badly tortured almost to the point of dying when I was 21, but I'm not afraid of getting tortured. So the question becomes, why are you? And it's never happened to you.
Because I guess I was beaten as a child, so I've always been afraid of pain.
So you hold it a bit closer.
I have been beaten as a child, so I've always been afraid of pain.
So there's a predisposition to the concept.
Yeah.
From whom? Who beat you?
My grandparents and my dad.
Yeah, interesting, huh? The very people who would think they're trying to protect you actually caused some of this fear of being harmed, violent harm inside of you. I agree. And then what else has occurred? You've had to make a decision at some point, Sandra, is what I'm getting at. You've made a decision to avoid any faith in God and any faith in God's goodness, any faith that things won't happen to you if you deal with things. You've made that decision. You've also made a decision to accept the family-based treatment of you, to continue to accept your grandmother's words, even though she's now passed. You continually accept that. You've made a decision to do that, right? And I'm saying to you, what causes you to keep making this decision? And what it is your dependency on family. You are so dependent on your family who have actually, by your own admission, harmed you, but you still want them in your life.
Sometimes I feel like I need to protect them as well.
I know, there's guilt, there's all sorts of emotion tied up with it, I understand, but in the end, you're the one deciding to have them in your life, and you're the one deciding to listen to them. And you don't want to take responsibility for that, the fact that it's your decision. And you can change your mind, but what might happen if you change your mind? Your grandma might do what she did when she was alive, and that is punish you for changing your mind out of harmony with her opinions. And your father certainly would try to do that, given his influence on your life. And you're afraid of that. So the reason why you're maintaining these connections with these spirits is because you wish to keep doing it to appease them so that you feel less fear. But the reality is you're feeling many times their fears. They're not even things that have happened to you. They're their fears being imposed upon you, and you're letting yourself be open to that attack because you don't want to have any faith that if you just deal with the emotion of why you're afraid of them, then you'd probably be less afraid of everything. You follow?
I have gotten in touch a little bit with the fear underneath at one point.
Can I stop you, Sandra? Your emotion is you're in complete disagreement with what I've said to you. Inside of yourself, you're in complete disagreement. You don't want to give it up. And I'm saying to you, unless you give it up, unless you give up this desire to listen to your family-based experiences, you're not going to work through this at all. You're going to carry these beliefs around. You're going to be reading articles about, because the law of attraction works perfectly, you're going to be reading articles about what do they call it? Harvesting and so forth. Yeah, and then you'll read articles about torture and you'll read articles about this, not understanding that all you're doing is heightening your own fear because you want to maintain a false belief. And I'm saying to you, something's going to have to change, and you don't want it to change, so I don't know what else we can say. Does that make sense? While you don't want it to change, you're going to keep doing this to yourself, and you're going to bear the consequence of doing it to yourself.
Does that mean it could happen to me as well?
Of course it could happen to you if you keep doing it. If you keep choosing to accept, and you know who it's probably going to happen from, unfortunately? From the very family that you are trying to maintain a connection with. They are the most likely persons going to damage you in this regard until you process through the emotion, which started from the exact same family. You follow? Your fear of being harmed came from them. And the irony is they're causing you to take away their responsibility for it and to put it onto the world and say, oh, there's all these bad things happening in the world, and I've got to worry about all these bad things happening in the world. But bad things have already happened to you in your own family. And unless you're willing to process that, then it's highly likely you may attract other events, right, in the world. But they will be the primary cause of them.
So you don't think that having a fear of powerlessness could attract torture?
My dear sister, I think you've just asked the same question a different way again because you haven't listened to my previous answer. And my answer is exactly the same as what I've already said. And my feeling is that you need to listen to it. But you can choose, you've got a will, you can choose to ignore it. Right? Your fear is so strong that it began last night as soon as you arrived, and it's been projected ever since at this group. And there is an issue with that, right? In that you do not wish to feel it. And that's the problem. You remember the steps. It's like, do I have a desire to feel it? Do I have faith that it can be better? No, I don't. You believe it's going to happen. You believe the worst is going to happen. This is how you think with your life. The worst is going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. You don't want to take any action to stop the influence that your family has on this belief system, and you don't want to feel the emotion that the worst will happen. You don't want to feel it. You want to avoid it. And if you don't do any of those things, the net result's going to be, instead of the child getting up and walking, the net result's going to be you're going to be on the ground crawling for the rest of your life in that comparison. And that's your choice. You can't blame someone else for that choice, though. You're an adult now. You've got responsibility of yourself. You can't keep blaming other people for the choice you're making to continue accepting a whole heap of beliefs that are untrue. Do you follow? Yeah, and this is and it's a great lesson, I feel, for anybody listening to the discussion, because most of us are doing that. Most continue to make a whole heap of choices and then wonder why our life isn't changing. Of course it can't. You can't change.
But how do you change then, like from this place that I'm now? Like it
I've
just
already
feels
told
like-
you. I've already told you how, but you do not want to hear it. So what can I do? I've told you that you're going to need to have a desire to be different. You're going to have some faith in God that things will work out. You're going to have to feel some emotion and you're going to have to take some action. But you don't want to hear that. So, and it's up to you what you do. It's not up to me. It's not my life being affected by it. It's yours. But the fact that you don't want to hear it and you want to keep asking the same question over again is the issue that you face, Sandra. And that's an indication of how resistive you are to making a change on the issue, because you're honouring, fear is your God. It's the only thing you consider. And this is why you become very unloving with me, and as you have done already twice, last night and this morning, in my break. And because to you, your fear is just like, fear is more important than anything. And I'm saying it's not. And I'm saying while you believe it is, you're going to keep doing the same thing. You're going to keep not taking action, not having faith. And so you keep yourself in this place. Do you follow? While you keep doing this. To me, your fear is no more than my fear. In fact, your fear is a lot less than my fear that I've had to address. I've actually been tortured. You haven't. Your grandmother has a similar level of fear that I had to address, but you don't. Right? And yet you're not willing to address it. And part of it is because of your connection with your grandmother in spirit. Part of it is this connection you don't want to break. You like her being around. You want the safety of it. You want to feel secure with it and so forth. Like my feelings are, I'd get rid of the relationship as soon as I possibly could under those circumstances, because she's influencing you out of harmony with love of you. Does that make sense? Yeah. But I've been, like I said, tortured 3 times in my life. Well, actually, it's actually more than that if you count my death, right? So I've been tortured 4 times in my life, quite severely, to the point of death or dying, and yet I don't have the same level of fear that you do about this situation. And you have not been tortured, so the fear has to be coming from somewhere, and I'm suggesting to you where it's coming from and what you can do to deal with it. You follow? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Okay, where's the mic? Oh, that's right, Joshua.
Hello.
How you doing? Keep it close.
All right. So we're talking about how I feel about change and like our desires and our faith, and that's lack of faith in my scenario.
Agreed. But maybe we need to put it for many of us. The problems are lack of desire, lack of faith, no action, and no wanting to feel emotion. So
that's
I agree.
me to a T.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been my whole life.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Every waking moment. I was prompted to ask a question because there's been a lot of stories about sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've been sexually abused, but I've kind of like on the other end of the scale where I've wanted to do the abuse to children, and as a term called like a non-exclusive attraction to children and whatnot there. And
gotcha. So what's the question?
Why do I have this desire in me? And like
very simple reason for you. What kind of gender of the child do you feel pulled towards?
Female.
Yeah. So you got your relationship with your mum and you, right? It's you, your mum. What was your mum like?
Asked me a couple of years ago, and I would have said she's great.
Yeah, I know you would have. Because a couple of years ago, she was giving you everything you wanted, right? How did you feel a couple of years ago? Why?
I've been running away from my family, I think, for a few years.
Yeah.
How did... I suppose she looked after me.
Ah,
yeah,
yes.
100%. Cooked,
Yeah.
cleaned, did my homework when I was younger.
Yeah.
Like when the assignments were coming late.
Yeah. Like, full on, eh?
Oh, yeah, she was great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is the thing, is you're afraid to have a relationship with an adult woman.
Yes.
Because an adult woman is just going to overcome you, take over your entire life. You follow? She's going to...
I'm not fine, but I'm listening.
Yeah, an adult woman is going to take over your entire life, is the way you believe, what you believe. Your adult woman is going to be like your mother.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She's going to take over your entire life, do everything for you. Like basically...
all my addictions can go, because she's going to, yeah.
She'll do all that, but she'll also be overbearing and controlling and dictate to you what's going to happen.
Which is probably what, like, a lot of my friendships with other people have been like.
Yep.
Okay, they'd look after me, they'd care for me, they'd cook for me.
Yeah.
I'd do bloody bugger all.
Yeah.
And like, then I'd be like, well, I hate you.
Because they've what?
Because they've been loving to me.
Well, no, a lot of times...
No, sorry, not loving.
A lot of times it's not love, but it is, they are doing things for you that you would normally, most people would be thankful for, but you have an expectation that this is what happens, obviously, right?
Yeah, I must do, because it keeps on happening.
Correct. So and that happens with males and females, doesn't it, that particular issue?
Yes.
Yes. So that particular issue is more evenly associated. I'm talking now about the sexual issue. The sexual issue. How does your mum view you as a sexual person? Can I ask you this question? Was your father in your life at any point in this time?
Not much as a kid, no.
No. And is he now?
No.
No. And what was the relationship between your mum and your dad?
They separated when I was 8 years old.
Yep.
So I'm not sure what it was like when they were there, but after that there was like very much like it's his fault or it's her fault, or like, he's a...
Constant bickering between the two of them and so forth, yeah. Yep. So what's happened is you're very afraid of having an adult relationship.
I can hardly even approach women sometimes, because I even noticed that like most of my interactions were like, purely like it seemed to be like all I wanted was sex. And like that was my whole entire kind of like basis for even relationships, like righto. Yep. And then I stayed in a few relationships and love, it was infatuation, I think.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of used them up and chewed them out, spat them out, and went to the next one.
Yep. So you're being pretty honest, Joshua. That's very good. So the key now for yourself is to see that you want to emotionally avoid adult relationships, right? And in the process of avoiding adult relationships, you still desire sexual interaction.
Yeah, I'm lonely.
Yeah.
My hands are getting sore.
Yeah. So fair enough. Yeah. So that's done me, that one. No. So basically, what you really desire, you don't want to be lonely. Like you have a desperate need to not be lonely.
Yeah, like I've only felt that lonely feeling maybe like 3 times in my life, and that was maybe for me like 30 seconds, and I'm like straight out the door to like a friend's house or whatever it may have been.
Yeah, something. So the question you asked was, how can you change? Well, firstly, you need to have a desire to change. And right at the beginning, you need to face some truth about the situation, which I feel you're actually doing. But you're facing truth about how you feel, but you're not facing the truth about your relationship with your mother at this point, because that's what's generated a lot of this underlying emotion. Your mother is emotionally incestuous with you.
Oh, yeah, she's like my little baby boy. And I'm like, I hate you.
Yeah.
But I haven't said that.
I know. But she says that to you all the time, doesn't she? Little baby boy.
Yeah, I started kind of pulling up on it last time I seen her, but it wasn't very assertive with it. I was like, oh, don't do that. And I was like, shut up.
Yeah. You're very afraid of her, actually. Very afraid of disappointing her and so forth. Now, all of those fears that you have going on with the woman now cause you to focus your attention on a girl child, because there's someone who you can control. There's someone who you can have some power over.
And it's really easy to. It's it's only kind of been one of those things I've realised recently of like, whoa, okay, like it's only been the last maybe like 6 months to a year where I've been kind of actively trying to be like to delve into this here, and before, like, I just kind of let it happen, and I never said no.
And this is and you're also getting severely influenced by spirits who want you to do the same thing. So what I'm suggesting to you is an issue of power. You don't have any power with adult women, and so you want power over child women. Do you understand?
I'm hearing you.
Yeah. So what you need to do is develop a desire to address this issue of power. It's a severe issue within you. You understand? It's very severe.
Yeah, I want to appease them and serve them, women. Well,
adult women, yes.
Yes.
But see, this is you just feeding the addiction.
Okay.
Right. The adult women, I agree, but not the child women.
Yes, I agree.
You want total control of them.
Yes.
Yeah. The girl children you want total control over. Very serious issue for you on a number of levels, right? So my suggestion for you is to focus on this powerless emotion that you feel with your mother. Right? You need to work your way through that emotion as soon as you possibly can.
Before kind of coming up here, I was kind of like, on the way back after this year, I really need to go see Mum and be like, don't want to feel obligated to send your husband a message on his birthday. Damn it.
Well, it's not only that. You need to address the emotion, not just take the action. So you're going to have to feel some pretty hurt childhood emotions here where you feel totally powerless with women. Do you understand? Because at the moment, you're not addressing those emotions.
I don't understand.
Yeah. The men who desire to abuse children of the opposite gender have an emotion of power with the opposite gender, with their opposite gender parent. The men who desire to abuse children of the same gender have an emotion of power with the same gender parent. So in other words, if you're a male and your mum's a female and you have an issue of power with your mother, right, you will tempt to take that out on girls. If you had a problem with your father, an issue of power with your father, where your father takes complete power over you, then you'll have an issue with boys. Does that make sense? So the issue you're facing is power in regards to the feminine gender. And all that spirits are doing here is hooking into the sexual drive.
Yeah, like right down here.
Yeah. So, but it's actually to do with worth and power that the issue is that you've got to resolve. Right. So it's a very serious problem, as you know, and something that you need to address as soon as you possibly can, because it harms lots of people.
Yeah.
And it's certainly something that you need to address. But you need to understand that the real thing you need to address is your true feelings with your mother. And you need to feel them rather than avoiding them. And even if you take some action, that'll help you feel them, but it won't help you feel them if you choose to not feel the emotion. You're going to have to choose to feel the emotion.
So having a chat to Mum and because it's going to do something, but it's not really going to
Yeah, having a chat to Mum is highly unlikely in that situation that you'll feel your emotion at that time, because your mum has been suppressing your emotional responses for all of her life.
And I started seeing that more so with how she is towards my sister's daughter, who's about this high, 5 years old.
Yeah.
And I kind of see some of those interactions. I'm like, ooh, okay.
Yeah.
She let her cry. Oh yeah, wherever it may be.
Yeah. So that's my suggestion to you, is to address that. Now, to do that, you're going to have a desire to address it. You're going to also have to have a desire to not sin anymore with regard to this issue, right?
Still an issue.
Yeah, so because it's still a feeling in you.
Still a desire I have within me.
Yeah, so you're going to have to develop a desire to address it, right? To have some faith that you can work through it, because you can. There's been many people that I know that have worked through these issues. Most of them are not here on earth, unfortunately, after they've passed. You're going to have to take some action that's positive, and you're going to have to feel some emotion, and that's the big one for you. You do not wish to feel the emotion of powerlessness.
No.
That is your biggest issue.
and I can look at my pet dog. Well, I think so, 'cause she like wants to dominate everything, every piece of furniture, every other dog. She gets up there and she's like,
yeah.
And I'm like, oh, and I've been kind of going for the last few weeks. I'm like, oh, what does that mean for me? Like, why is she doing that? Like, how does it reflect me? And the other day I'm like, oh, maybe she's like, well, it's kind of pretty clear, I suppose. She wants to be dominant. She wants to dominate everything.
Yes, and that comes from a feeling of powerlessness to do that inside of yourself.
It's funny almost.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's the opposite emotion. And your powerlessness exists with women. Right? And this is why you avoid adult relationships. Yep. Because any time you enter an adult relationship, the feeling is and what you finish up creating is exactly the same as a relationship you have with your mother.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's was it? Okay, marry the mother type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So your sincerity in addressing the issue of powerlessness is going to cause your change. So, but you can see again, it requires the same steps really, the same steps that the little child would engage to address something that it wants to do. It has to have a desire, has to have some faith that it can happen, and so forth. And unfortunately, you're getting quite severely impacted by spirits as well. But you don't realise that these spirits are just taking power over you. So you're actually giving them power.
I had a moment where I haven't given up cigarettes yet. Where I walked out front there and I had a cigarette through our 20-minute break there. And there was a child and a mother kind of coming by there, and the child kind of runs out. I go, ha ha ha! I tricked you. Yeah. And I kind of felt like I was drawn into that kind of situation to be there. Yeah. And I was like, oh, is this like, are these guys kind of like talking to me like, ha ha, I tricked you, Josh, ha ha. Yeah. You thought you wanted to come out here just for a cigarette, but there's actually like a child over there, and there's another one like passing the road over there, the mother kind of carrying it, and there's another one coming over through there. So I put myself in that situation. Yeah, and the spirit, you're able to listen to the spirits who guide these particular situations to your sight. You wouldn't on your own be able to know where children are at any point in time. You're not that sensitive emotionally, but they tell you and you're willing to listen to them. Yeah, because the hook kind of goes... Yeah, you're willing to listen to them because it meets your unhealed addiction. Right? So that's the other thing you're going to have to confront, the willingness to listen to people who are way out of harmony with love, and all they want to do is to have you harm others in order to have their addictions met. Yeah. So pretty much everyone in my life, just about. Yeah, well, this is where a lot of people who are in your situation, Josh, don't understand that actually the more they try to attempt to gain power over others, the more others actually finish up having power over them. And this is something that you're not really appreciating at this stage. You're opening yourself to women's spirits and men's spirits having a lot of power over you. The women's spirits are just like your mother, and the men's spirits have very similar unhealed emotions with regard to the sexual side of things. And they manipulate your entire life. And if you're not careful, you're going to end up like in a very bad situation, potentially life-threatening if you keep going the way you're going. And certainly, certainly harmful enough to land you in prison for a long, extended period. So my suggestion to you is to develop the desire to disconnect yourself from these particular spirits, but also address the issue of powerlessness with your mother, because that's the underlying. And working obviously through simple things such as physical addictions like drinking, alcohol, pot is a start, but it's not. It's I need to do that before. You need to do that because they assist you to make these poor decisions. But these are ways that spirits that are manipulating you in order to help you make the poor decision. Does that make sense? Sort of. So you've got very little desire to control your own actions at this point. It would seem that way. Yeah. And my suggestion is you're going to have to develop a much more stronger desire. Yeah. Keep on. And keeping myself away from situations that, not just keeping yourself away, but also dealing with the addiction itself. Do you see? It's like the stuff with your mother
is if you address that, that will deal with the addiction itself, the power, the desire for power over people who are smaller than you, is the primary addiction. It's a sexual power that you're looking for, and that's the primary addiction because you feel like your mother has taken sexual power over you, basically, and you don't want to address that particular issue.
Yeah, I've never.
Anyway, I think we've discussed it enough, but but thanks for being honest about it.
Thank you for the insight.
My pleasure. Thalia. I'm already past time, actually.
Josh and I have had an interesting law of attraction because complete strangers attracted to living in the same house. And I have actually, been sexually abused.
By an older man?
Yeah, by my cousin who was older than me. And so, I have a lot of trauma going on at the moment. So I've had a lot of issues with men sexually projecting at me lately.
Yeah.
And I guess I haven't delved into that yet, that aspect of what happened to me in my life properly. So
the law of attraction is an amazing thing, is it not?
Yeah.
Of 70 people, you end up with a person who's the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting? So this demonstrates that obviously there's healing to occur for yourself too. And
I just don't know where to start with it.
I don't want to get stuck because I feel now what we're doing is talking about specific individual childhood issues.
Cool.
And while, it was good to do that with Josh with regard to that issue because he's raised it, but my feelings are I've said a lot about dealing with sexual abuse issues.
Sure.
And both myself and Mary have had to address sexual abuse issues, so we both know and understand what's required. But it is a lot to do, again, with power and a feeling of powerlessness. And it's to do with sexual power, right? So when a man sexually projects at you, you no longer feel in control sexually, right? So there's got to be reasons why that feeling occurs, and that's why you get angry about it when they do it. You follow?
Yeah, I do.
And the key, again, is to work through, again, desire to address it. Now, with a lot of sexual abuse issues, most people I've observed have very little desire to address it and deal with it, and in fact have a strong desire to keep angry about it instead. And I see a lot of you doing that. Those of you who have been sexually abused, I see a lot of you just staying angry because that's your desire, to stay angry, thinking that it's protective, but it's actually not. Because an angry person ends up being like Joshua's mother was like. And so you finish up creating the next generation of abusive children, right, when you're like that. And this is the danger of the cyclic danger of what occurs. You follow? Something happened to Joshua's mother that caused her to want to have total sexual domination over Josh, and as a result, he now feels so sexually out of himself that now he's desiring sexual control over women. Girls, not women. And this cycle continues to occur while we hold on to these particular emotions. So all I can do, again, is say basically the same thing I said to Josh. Exercise a desire to deal with the issue. Have some faith that you can resolve it and release it completely. Take some actions that are going to mean that you're going to have to feel some emotion. And one action, obviously, is this attraction that you have the ability right in your own place that you're staying in to discuss with the guy what's driving him, what's going on for you. He can hear from you about how much it's harmed you, and this will help him to understand the need to address the issue. Does that make sense? So this is a great thing to be able to work your way through these issues. The key is to desire that, is to actually desire to work through those particular issues. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we're out of time, guys. How you all going?
How are you going?
Yeah, I'm a bit tired in my throat. So tomorrow we have a shorter day basically four presentations tomorrow. The first presentation will be about how and why I remain unloving, so what causes me to stay unloving, and then we'll have a Q&A about that. And then we'll have some personal and group feedback. So remember, if you do have some questions about today, remember principles more than personal experiences, please, if we can. Then please list them in the session up the back before you go out. And we'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you. That's great.